The phone buzzed in my hand, displaying a number I hadn't seen in 3 years. My heart stopped, then started again with a vengeance. Marquis, the same man who walked out on me when I was 7 months pregnant, taking our life savings and my best friend with him. I'm Raylin, and that call marked the beginning of my transformation from victim to victor. Mama, the timer's going off. My daughter Grace's voice carried from the kitchen, snapping me back to reality. I silenced my phone and rushed to rescue the chocolate chip cookies from burning. Perfect timing, sweetie. I pulled out the tray, letting the aroma of fresh-baked cookies fill our tiny apartment above what used to be my mother's failing bakery. Now it was my sanctuary, my battlefield, and my redemption all rolled into one. Can I have one? Grace reached for a cookie, her dark curls falling into her eyes, just like her father's used to. Let them cool first, baby. I kissed her forehead, trying to push away thoughts of Marquis. But the phone call had opened old wounds. The bell downstairs chimed. Raylin? Alea's voice echoed up the stairs. The food critic from the Chronicle is here. Coming. I straightened my apron and turned to Grace. Remember what we practiced? She nodded enthusiastically. Stay upstairs and play quietly because this is a super important day for Mommy's business. I hurried downstairs, nearly colliding with Stephen, my business mentor, who was arranging display cases. You've got this, he whispered, squeezing my shoulder. Show them what Wilkins Bakery is made of. The food critic sat at our best table, notebook in hand. I approached with our signature dessert, the one that had saved this place from bankruptcy after Marquis left. Welcome to Wilkins. This is our Caribbean rum cake, inspired by my grandmother's recipe. My hands were steady as I set down the plate, even as memories threatened to overwhelm me. The critic took a bite and I watched his eyes widen. This is extraordinary. The moisture, the balance of flavors. My phone buzzed again in my pocket. I ignored it. The secret is in the timing, I explained, pushing thoughts of Marquis aside. Everything in life comes down to timing. Later that night, after Grace was asleep and the bakery was quiet, I finally listened to the voicemail. Marquis's voice filled my ear, bringing back memories of that devastating day 3 years ago. Ray, I know I'm the last person you want to hear from, but Jayla and we need your help. Please call me back. I played it again, anger and satisfaction warring in my chest. My former best friend and my ex-husband needed my help. The same people who'd cleaned out our joint account and left me to face eviction while carrying their brother's child. You okay? Stephen's voice startled me. He was closing up downstairs, and I hadn't heard him come up. Marquis called. My voice cracked. He and Jayla need help. Stephen's face darkened. After what they did to you? Karma's finally caught up with them, I guess. I laughed, but it sounded hollow even to my ears. What are you going to do? I looked at the framed review on the wall from last month's food magazine, then at the photo of Grace on her first day of preschool. I'm going to show them exactly what they missed out on. My phone buzzed with a text. Jayla this time. Please, Ray, we're desperate. Just meet with us, for old time's sake. Stephen read over my shoulder. You don't owe them anything. No, I agreed, a plan forming in my mind. But I owe myself this. I typed out a reply. Tomorrow, 3 p.m., the bakery. Are you sure about this? Stephen asked. I thought about the day Marquis left, how I'd collapsed on our bedroom floor, how my mother had found me there hours later, how she'd helped me channel that pain into saving her bakery, how every success since then had been built on the foundation of their betrayal. They're about to learn that karma comes with a side of sweet revenge, I said, my voice steady, and I'm serving it up fresh from the oven. The critic's review would hit the papers tomorrow morning. Our little bakery was about to become the hottest spot in town. Perfect timing indeed. I touched my phone screen, where their desperate messages glowed like beacons of vindication. Tomorrow they'd walk into my bakery, my success story, and see exactly what they'd walked away from. The thought brought a smile to my face that would have scared me 3 years ago. But I'm not the same woman they left behind. That Raylan died the day Marquis walked out. This Raylan? She rose from those ashes, and she's about to serve up a dish best served cold, with a warm smile and a side of karma. Mommy, look, we're on TV. Grace bounced on the couch, pointing at the morning news segment featuring our bakery. The Food Critics Review had gone viral overnight, and local stations were already camping outside our door. That's right, baby. I smoothed her hair, watching myself on screen talking about our signature desserts. The caption read, "Local Bakery's Sweet Success Story." My phone hadn't stopped ringing since dawn. 3 missed calls from Marquis, 2 from Jayla, and dozens from potential investors. Raylan, Alea burst through the apartment door, waving her phone. The lines wrapped around the block, and Steven's already handling interviews downstairs. I checked the time, 9 a.m., 6 hours until I'd face them. Grace, ready for school? I grabbed her backpack, trying to maintain our normal routine despite the chaos. Downstairs was a madhouse. Steven expertly managed the crowd while camera crews set up equipment. The bell above the door chimed constantly. There she is. A reporter thrust a microphone in my face. How does it feel to be the city's newest culinary sensation? I smiled, channeling the confidence I'd built over 3 years. It feels like validation. This bakery represents second chances, proving that sometimes life's biggest setbacks lead to our greatest comebacks. Any specific setbacks you're referring to? Before I could answer, Steven stepped in. Let's focus on the food, shall we? Raylan, why don't you show them the kitchen? By noon, we'd sold out of everything except a few display items. My mother called, crying happy tears. Your father would be so proud, she said. You took our little bakery and turned it into something magical. Thanks, Mom. I wiped flour from my forehead. But listen, Marquise and Jayla are coming today. Silence on the line. Then, do you want me to come over? No, I need to handle this myself. I watched Steven teaching Grace how to make paper airplanes during her lunch break. Besides, I'm not alone. At 2:55 p.m., Steven took Grace upstairs for her nap. Alea stationed herself by the register, pretending to count receipts but really watching my back. The bell chimed at exactly 3 p.m. They walked in together, looking nothing like the confident couple who'd betrayed me 3 years ago. Jayla's designer clothes were replaced by worn jeans and a faded blouse. Marquise's signature swagger was gone, replaced by slumped shoulders and worry lines. Ray? Jayla stepped forward, arms outstretched for a hug. I held up my hand. Don't. My voice was ice. Sit. They slid into a booth, looking small against the backdrop of my success. Press clippings and awards covered the walls behind them. Congratulations, Marquis gestured at the crowded bakery. You've done amazing things here. Cut the small talk. I set down 3 cups of coffee. Why are you here? Jayla's hands shook as she pulled out some papers. Our business, it's failing. We invested everything in a restaurant franchise, but the company was fraudulent. We're facing bankruptcy. And this concerns me because we need a loan, Marquis said quietly. Just enough to keep us afloat until we can sell the property. I laughed, the sound sharp enough to make them flinch. You mean like the money you stole from our joint account? I know we hurt you, Jayla started. Hurt me? I leaned forward. You were my best friend. You were supposed to be my child's godmother. Instead, you helped my husband clean out our savings while I was pregnant. We made mistakes, Marquise admitted. Terrible ones, But we have a daughter now. So do I. My voice cracked. Remember her? The one you abandoned before she was even born? Alea appeared at my side, touching my shoulder. Everything okay here? I nodded, gathering myself. You know what's funny? 3 years ago, I was drowning in debt, pregnant and alone. Nobody offered to help me then, but I survived. I thrived. Please, Jayla whispered. We don't know where else to turn. I pulled out an envelope, sliding it across the table. This came for you this morning. Your business's final notice of foreclosure. Interesting how karma works, isn't it? Their faces paled. How did you... I have friends in the banking industry now. Amazing what success can buy you. I stood up. You have until the end of the month to vacate the property. Ray, wait. Marky reached for my hand. Don't touch me. I stepped back. You wanted my help? Here it is. Sometimes rock bottom is the best foundation to build on. I should know. The bell chimed again as a delivery man entered. Package for Raylan Wilkins? I signed for the envelope, opening it right there. Inside was a contract from a major restaurant group offering to franchise my bakery nationwide. I looked at my former husband and best friend, then at the contract that would cement my success. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have an empire to build. They left quietly, defeated. But as I watched them go, a small voice in my head whispered that revenge might not taste as sweet as I'd imagined. A week after their visit, I was elbow-deep in cookie dough when Alea rushed into the kitchen. Raylan, you need to see this. She held up her phone, showing a local news article. The headline made my stomach drop. Popular restaurant owners face fraud allegations. Workers left unpaid. Scroll down, Alea said softly. There it was, a photo of Marquis and Jayla standing outside their failing restaurant, and beside them, a little girl with familiar eyes. My heart stopped. She looked just like Grace. That must be their daughter, I whispered. Josephine, Alea read from the article. She's 5. The same age as Grace, half-sisters who'd never met. The thought made me dizzy. The kitchen door swung open as Stephen walked in. Have you seen the news? Their employees are protesting outside their restaurant. How many workers? I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. 15. All haven't been paid in 6 weeks. He paused. Some have families, Ray. I threw down my apron. I need air. Outside, the spring air did nothing to clear my head. I walked aimlessly, ending up at the park where Grace and I spent Sunday afternoons. To my shock, I spotted Jayla sitting alone on a bench, her face in her hands. Before I could turn away, she looked up. Her eyes were red-rimmed. Ray, where's Josephine? The question slipped out before I could stop it. At school, where I can still afford to send her. For now. Jayla wiped her eyes. I suppose you've seen the news? Your employees are good people who trusted us. She laughed bitterly. Just like you did. I sat down, leaving space between us. Tell me what really happened. We thought we'd done our research. The franchise seemed legitimate. But after we invested everything, we discovered the parent company was a shell. By then, it was too late. She pulled out her phone, showing me a photo of Josephine. She keeps asking why Daddy cries at night. Something twisted in my chest. And Marquis, working 3 jobs, trying to pay our employees what we can. She turned to me. I know you hate us, Ray. We deserve it, but those workers don't deserve this. Mom! A child's voice called out. I turned to see a little girl running toward us, her backpack bouncing. My breath caught. She had Marquise's smile. Josephine, baby, you're early, Jayla started. The teacher let us out. Josephine stopped short when she saw me. Are you Mommy's friend? Words failed me. This is Raylan, Jayla said quietly. She owns the famous bakery downtown. Josephine's eyes lit up. The one with the pretty cakes in the window? Daddy and I look at them sometimes when we walk by. You do? I looked at Jayla, who nodded sadly. He takes her there every morning before school, she admitted. Says it reminds him of what he lost. Josephine pulled something from her backpack, a crumpled drawing. Look what I made today. It's our family and the bakery. The crayon sketch showed stick figures, Marquis, Jayla, Josephine, and to my surprise, 2 more figures by a building with bakery written above it. Who are they? I pointed to the extra figures. That's Grace and her mommy, Josephine said proudly. I saw their picture in the newspaper. We look alike. Is she my sister? The world tilted on its axis. I stood up abruptly. I have to go. Ray, wait, Jayla called after me. I'll think about it, I said, not turning around. The employees, I'll think about it. Back at the bakery, I found Stephen in my office. I need you to look into something, I said, still shaken. Find out exactly how much Marquis and Jayla owe their employees. He studied my face. Are you sure about this? No. I sank into my chair. But there's something else. I need you to check their franchise contract. Find out if they really were scammed. And if they were, then maybe... I picked up a framed photo of Grace from my desk. Maybe karma isn't about revenge at all. The door burst open and Grace ran in, back from her day with Alea. Mommy, look what I drew at school today. She held up a picture, and my heart stopped. It was almost identical to Josephine's. A bakery with figures standing outside. A family. Who are they? I asked, already knowing the answer. That's us, she pointed. And that's my other family, the one Daddy has now. Can I meet them someday? I pulled her close, breathing in her sweet scent. Maybe, baby. Maybe soon. Stephen picked up his phone. I'll make those calls now. I nodded, watching Grace add more details to her drawing. 2 little girls holding hands in front of a bakery. Sometimes, I realized, the universe has a way of serving its own kind of justice, one that tastes more like healing than revenge. The franchise company definitely scammed them, Stephen said, spreading documents across my office desk. They weren't the only victims. There are lawsuits in 3 states. I stared at the papers, my coffee growing cold. And the employees? They're owed just over $48,000 in back wages. He hesitated. Marquis has been selling his car parts to make partial payments. The morning sun streamed through the window, highlighting the growing stack of franchise offers on my desk, each one worth more than what Marquis and Jayla owed. Mommy, Grace burst in, followed by an apologetic-looking Alea. Can we go to the park today, please? Baby, Mommy has a lot of work. The same park where you saw Josephine? Alea interrupted, giving me a meaningful look. My heart raced. What time does Marquis take her there? Every day at 4, Stephen answered, checking his notes. After his shift at the warehouse. I looked at Grace's hopeful face. Okay, sweetie, we'll go to the park. At 3:55 p.m., we arrived at the park. Grace ran to the swings while I sat on a bench, pretending to read emails but watching the entrance. Right on time, Marquis appeared, holding Josephine's hand. He stopped short when he saw me. Hiya, Daddy! Josephine tugged his arm, oblivious to the tension. Then she spotted Grace on the swings. Look, it's the girl from the newspaper. Before either of us could react, Josephine broke free and ran to the swings. Hi, I'm Josephine. Want to be friends? Grace's face lit up. Okay, my name's Grace. Marquis approached slowly, hands in his pockets. This isn't a coincidence, is it? Sit. I moved over, watching our daughters swing together, their laughter identical. They look so much alike, he said softly. Stephen looked into your situation. I kept my eyes on the girls. You really were scammed. Does that change anything? It changes everything. I turned to face him. Why didn't you fight the franchise company? He laughed hollowly. With what money? We can barely feed Josephine. His voice cracked. I've failed everyone. Again. Daddy, watch this. Josephine called out, pumping her legs higher. Me too, Mommy. Grace matched her sister's height. They're naturals, I said. Both of them. Ray, about what happened. Not now. I cut him off. This isn't about us. It's about them. A comfortable silence fell as we watched our daughters play. Finally, I spoke again. The employees you owe money to. How many have children? 8 of them. He rubbed his face. I've been working extra shifts, trying to pay them something at least. And Jayla? Cleaning houses, anything she can find. He looked at me. We're not the same people who hurt you, Ray. We learned our lesson the hard way. Mommy, can Josephine come see the bakery? Grace ran up, breathless. She's never had your special cookies. Josephine followed, eyes wide. Please, Daddy always says they're the best in the world. I caught Marquis blushing. You've never actually tried them? We just looked through the window, Josephine said innocently. Daddy says we don't deserve to go inside after what they did to you. My chest tightened. I pulled out my phone and dialed. Stephen, get the lawyers to draw up those papers we discussed and call everyone in for a staff meeting tomorrow morning. I hung up and turned to the girls. How about we all go to the bakery right now? Really? Both girls squealed in unison. Ray, you don't have to, Marquis started. This isn't for you. I stood up. This is for them and for those 8 families waiting for their paychecks. At the bakery, I watched as Grace showed Josephine how to properly eat a chocolate chip cookie, breaking it in half to let the steam escape first. Their heads bent together, dark curls mixing, impossible to tell apart. These are amazing, Josephine said, chocolate smeared on her chin. Want to see something cool? Grace led her sister to the kitchen window. That's where Mommy makes magic happen. I turned to Marquise, who stood awkwardly by the door. Be here tomorrow at 9. Bring Jayla and all your employee records. Why? Because sometimes karma isn't about getting even. I watched our daughters share another cookie. Sometimes it's about getting it right. He nodded, tears in his eyes. Thank you, Ray. Don't thank me yet. I handed him a box of cookies. Give these to your employees. Tell them to come tomorrow too. All of them. As they left, Josephine hugged Grace tightly. See you tomorrow, sister. Grace beamed at me. Can we make special cookies for everyone tomorrow, Mommy? I pulled her close, watching Marquis and Josephine disappear down the street. Yes, baby. Tomorrow we're baking something even better than cookies. We're baking up second chances. The bakery was closed to customers, but every table was full. 15 employees from Marquis and Jayla's restaurant sat nervously, while Marquis and Jayla stood near the counter, looking like defendants awaiting sentencing. Before we start, I addressed the room. Everyone needs to try these. Amelia and Grace carried out trays of fresh pastries. My daughter and her sister made them specially for today. The tension broke slightly as people reached for the treats. Josephine bounced proudly next to Grace. We helped frost them. These are incredible, said Maria, a waitress who hadn't been paid in 6 weeks. But Ms. Wilkins, why are we here? I nodded to Stephen, who started distributing envelopes. Open them. The room filled with gasps and confused murmurs. This is a check for all our back wages, said Tom, the head chef. But how? I'm buying the restaurant, I announced. The room went silent, and converting it into a second location for Wilkins Bakery. Everyone who wants to stay will be trained and retained at their current salary, plus benefits. Jayla's hand flew to her mouth, Marky stepped forward. Ray, we can't accept. You don't have a choice. I held up the franchise documents. You were victims of fraud, the properties being foreclosed. This way, at least your employees don't suffer for someone else's crimes. What about us? Jayla asked quietly. That depends. I turned to face them fully. How good are you at baking? What? I'm offering you both jobs, entry level. You'll train under Alea, starting with basics, no special treatment. I looked them in the eyes. You'll earn your place here, just like I earned mine. Tears rolled down Jayla's cheeks. Marquis gripped her hand. Yay! Josephine hugged her parents. Now we can have cookies every day. Not quite, I smiled. But speaking of family, I pulled out another set of papers. These are for you two to sign. What are they? Marquis asked. Visitation arrangements for the girls. The room went quiet again. They're sisters. They deserve to know each other. Grace and Josephine high-fived, already inseparable after just one day. There's one condition, I added. We all attend family counseling, together. We need to learn how to co-parent properly. Yes, Jayla whispered. Anything. Mommy? Grace tugged my sleeve. Can we show Josephine our special place now? I nodded. The girls ran upstairs to the apartment, their footsteps echoing like thunder. The rest of you, I addressed the employees. Training starts Monday. Welcome to the Wilkins family. As people filed out, clutching their checks and employment papers, Maria stopped to hug me. Thank you for saving our jobs. But why? I watched Grace and Josephine return, carrying a worn photo album. Because everyone deserves a second chance to get things right. The girls spread the album on a table. Look, Grace pointed. That's Mommy and your mommy when they were best friends. Josephine's eyes widened at a photo of Jayla and me at college graduation. You looked so happy. We were, Jayla said softly. And this, Grace turned the page, is Daddy and Mommy's wedding. Marquis stared at the photo, his jaw tight. I was a fool. Yes, you were, I agreed. But maybe we all were, in different ways. Josephine pulled out a folded paper from her pocket, another drawing. This one showed two buildings side by side, the original bakery and the new location. Between them stood 5 figures, all holding hands. Our whole family, she explained proudly. Together. Stephen appeared at my elbow with contracts. Ready to sign the purchase agreement? I looked at the drawing, then at our daughters, their heads bent together over the photo album, pointing and giggling. At Marquise and Jayla, humbled but hopeful. At the empty pastry trays that our girls had decorated together. Almost. I turned to my former best friend and ex-husband. First, I need to know, are you ready to work harder than you've ever worked before? To earn back trust? To put our children first? Yes, they said in unison. Then, let's begin. I signed the first page, then slid it across the table. Welcome to your fresh start. As they signed, Grace and Josephine started planning the new bakery's decoration. We need lots of pictures, Grace declared. Of all of us. And fairy lights, Josephine added. Everything's better with fairy lights. I caught Stephen smiling. What? I asked. Just thinking about karma, he said. Sometimes it works in mysterious ways. Looking at our strange new family, I had to agree. Revenge might be sweet, but redemption, that was turning out to be the most delicious dish of all. All right, everyone, I called out. Who's ready to learn how to make our famous rum cake? The girls cheered, and even Marquis and Jayla managed genuine smiles. Together, we headed toward the kitchen, ready to bake something new from the ashes of what we'd burned. You're holding the piping bag too tight, I told Jayla, watching her struggle with a batch of cupcakes. 2 weeks into training, and she still couldn't get the frosting swirl right. Relax your grip. I'm trying, she muttered, concentration etched on her face. How do you make it look so easy? 3 years of practice, I demonstrated again. And a lot of failed batches. The kitchen door burst open as Grace and Josephine ran in, fresh from school. Mom, guess what? Grace bounced excitedly. We got the lead parts in the school play. Both of us, Josephine added. We're playing twins. Jayla's hand slipped, smearing frosting across the counter. I caught her expression, joy mixed with pain. Our daughters were getting the chance to be sisters that we never got to be best friends again. That's wonderful, girls, I said, but you know the kitchen rules. They quickly washed their hands and donned their mini aprons, decorated with their names in glitter paint, a project from their first weekend together. Where's Dad? Josephine asked, reaching for a cookie. At the new location, Jayla answered, meeting with the contractors. The renovation was moving faster than expected. Marquis had surprised everyone with his dedication, showing up early every day to oversee the work. He'd even caught several costly mistakes the contractors had tried to slip past us. Stephen walked in, frowning at his phone. Ray, we need to talk. Girls, why don't you help your mom with those cupcakes? I followed Stephen to my office. He closed the door. Remember that competing bakery that opened across from the new location last month? Sweet Dreams Bakery? What about them? They're owned by the same people who scammed Marcus and Jayla. He handed me his phone. And they're using your recipes. My stomach dropped as I scrolled through their menu. Caribbean rum cake, my grandmother's secret recipe, listed right there. That's impossible. Nobody knows those recipes except... I stopped, looking through the kitchen window at Jayla. Except your former best friend? Stephen finished. The recipes were on your home computer when they left, weren't they? 3 years ago, Jayla had helped me digitize my recipe collection. She'd had access to everything. Get Marquis in here, now. 20 minutes later, Marquis arrived, still wearing his dust-covered work clothes. His face fell when he saw our expressions. Did you know? I demanded, showing him the menu. He paled. Ray, I can explain. So you did know. My voice shook. You sold my family's recipes to those scammers? No. He ran his hands through his hair. They found them on Jayla's old laptop. When we were desperate for money, they offered to buy the recipes. We refused, but they threatened to sue us for even more money if we didn't partner with them. And you didn't think to tell me this when I offered to help you? I was ashamed. He slumped in a chair. We've been trying to make it right. Why do you think I've been at the new location every day? I've been gathering evidence of their operation. Stephen's phone buzzed. He checked it and smiled. He's telling the truth. My contact just sent over their internal emails. They've been using stolen recipes from multiple businesses. I sat down heavily. Why didn't you just come to me? Because I've already hurt you enough. Marky looked through the window where our daughters were decorating cupcakes together, Jayla teaching them how to hold the piping bags properly. I couldn't risk ruining this second chance. The girls' laughter filtered through the glass, and I remembered something my mother once said. Sometimes people deserve the chance to fix what they broke. Okay, I said finally. Here's what we're gonna do. An hour later, we gathered everyone in the kitchen. I laid out our plan to expose the fraudulent bakery while protecting our recipes and our family. But first, I turned to Jayla. I need to know, did you keep copies of the recipes? She pulled out her phone and deleted a folder. Not anymore. Her eyes met mine. I'm choosing our family over everything else. Good, I smiled. Because I'm about to teach you both my real secret recipes, the ones that aren't written down anywhere. Really? Jayla's eyes widened. Really? Starting with my actual Caribbean rum cake recipe. I tossed them both aprons. The one they stole? That was the decoy I keep on my computer. The girls cheered as we gathered around the prep station. Can we help? They asked in unison. Of course. I measured out flour, watching my strange, broken, healing family come together around the kitchen island. Everyone grab a bowl. Today, we're not just baking cake. We're baking justice, Grace announced proudly. With extra rum, Josephine added. Maybe not that last part, Marquis laughed, ruffling her hair. As we worked, I realized that sometimes the sweetest revenge isn't revenge at all. Sometimes it's standing in your kitchen, teaching your family secrets to the very people who once betrayed you, and finding that forgiveness tastes better than any recipe you could ever create. Are you sure about this? Stephen asked as we parked outside Sweet Dreams Bakery. Once we do this, there's no going back. They stole from my family. I checked my hidden microphone. Time they learned what that feels like. Inside, the bakery was a poor imitation of mine. Same color scheme, similar layout, but something felt off, like a knockoff handbag trying to pass as designer. Welcome to Sweet Dreams. A perky salesgirl approached. Would you like to try our famous Caribbean rum cake? Actually, I smiled. I'm here to see Marcus Thompson. Her smile faltered. Do you have an appointment? Tell him Raylan's here. He'll want to see me. Minutes later, a sleek man in an expensive suit emerged from the back office. Ms. Wilkins, what a surprise. I've heard so much about your quaint little bakery. Cut the act, Marcus. We both know where you got my recipes. His smile didn't waver. I'm sure I don't know what you mean. Our recipes are original creations. I pulled out my phone, playing a recording. His voice filled the quiet bakery. Get those recipes from the Waltons, or we'll bury them in lawsuits. Their bankruptcy works in our favor. The salesgirl's eyes widened. Customers stopped eating, listening. My office, now. Marcus grabbed my arm. Take your hand off her. Marquis stepped out from behind a display case where he'd been waiting. Marcus released me, straightening his tie. Mr. Walton, I see loyalty isn't your strong suit. Actually, Jayla emerged from the kitchen, phone recording. He's learned a lot about loyalty and consequences. In the office, Marcus tried to maintain control. Whatever you think you have, we have everything. I placed a USB drive on his desk. Every email, every threat, every stolen recipe from every baker you've scammed. The police are very interested in your franchise scheme. You're bluffing. Check your phone. He did, face paling as messages flooded in. His other locations were being raided by police right now. Here's what's going to happen, I said calmly. You're going to sign over this location to me as compensation. Your choice. Do it voluntarily or do it through court while sitting in jail. You can't? We already did. Stephen walked in with 2 police officers. The warrant just came through. As Marcus was led out in handcuffs, I heard familiar voices outside. Grace and Josephine had arrived with my mother, right on schedule. Is it over, Mommy? Grace asked. Almost, baby. I watched as former Sweet Dreams employees gathered, looking lost. Actually, it's just beginning. I addressed the staff. Anyone who wants a job at Wilkins Bakery, line up here. We're expanding, and we need good people. Even though we worked for him? The salesgirl asked. Everyone deserves a second chance. I caught Jayla's eye. Right? She nodded, tears streaming. Right. Later that evening, we gathered at the original bakery. The girls had insisted on making celebration cookies, and no one could say no to their matching puppy dog eyes. To new beginnings. Stephen raised his coffee cup. And old recipes made right, Marquis added, watching Jayla teach their daughter the proper way to measure flour. Mom, Grace tugged my sleeve, can we show them the surprise now? What surprise? Jayla asked. The girls ran upstairs, returning with a large wrapped canvas. We made it in art class. They unveiled it together, a painting of both bakery locations with a rainbow connecting them. Written across the top in childish letters, "Our family's sweet success." "Look," Josephine pointed, "that's all of us holding hands, even Uncle Stephen." Stephen pretended to wipe dust from his eye. "It's perfect," I said, hugging both girls. "We'll hang it where everyone can see it." "In the middle," Grace declared. "Between both bakeries," Josephine agreed. Marquis cleared his throat. "Ray, there's something else we need to tell you." My heart stopped. "What?" "Show her." Jayla nudged him. He pulled out a worn envelope. "Remember when we first met? In college? The campus bake sale." How could I forget? It was where this all began. "You sold me a chocolate chip cookie. I kept the wrapper." He opened the envelope. Inside was a faded paper wrapper with my handwriting. "Made with love by Raylan." "You kept that? All these years?" "It reminded me of who you were, who I was supposed to be." He took a deep breath. "Who I want to be again." "We both do," Jayla added softly. The girls watched us, hands clasped together, as if they'd known all along that this moment would come. "Well," I said finally, "we better start baking then. Tomorrow's a big day." "Why? What's tomorrow?" the girls asked in unison. I smiled, looking at my strange, beautiful, rebuilt family. "Tomorrow we start writing our new recipe, together." "With extra chocolate chips?" Grace asked hopefully. "And fairy lights?" Josephine added. "And everything else," I promised, watching the sunset paint our family portrait in shades of gold. Sometimes the sweetest endings come from the bitterest beginnings. You just have to know how to mix the ingredients right. "Places, everyone," Grace called out, clipboard in hand. "The food critic is coming." Josephine adjusted the fairy lights they'd insisted on hanging between the two connected bakeries. Everything has to be perfect for the grand reopening. I watched my daughter's direct staff members like tiny generals, matching aprons swishing as they moved. The walkway between the original Wilkins Bakery and our new location buzzed with energy. "They get that bossiness from you," Marquise said, carrying in a fresh tray of pastries. "Pretty sure that's all you," I countered, but we both smiled. Jayla emerged from the kitchen, flour on her cheek. "The special anniversary cake is ready, and yes, I used the real recipe this time." "You better have," I teased. "You're a certified Wilkins baker now." The bell chimed as Stephen rushed in. The critic's car just parked around the corner. "Battle stations," the girls shouted together. Everyone moved with practiced precision. This wasn't just any review. This was our chance to show the world how two broken families had built something stronger together. The critic entered, notebook in hand, but before he could speak, Grace and Josephine stepped forward. "Welcome to Wilkins Family Bakeries," they said in perfect unison. "Would you like to hear our story?" The critic blinked, charmed by their rehearsed routine. "I would love to." "It all started with a cookie wrapper," Josephine began. "And a lot of broken hearts," Grace added. "Girls," I warned gently, but the critic was already intrigued. "No, please continue," he said, pulling out his recorder. They led him through both bakeries, telling our story their way, through the eyes of two sisters who found each other through their parents' mistakes and redemption. "And this," they presented the walkway between the buildings, "is our bridge of second chances." The critic studied the family portrait hanging there, then the real family standing before him. "Remarkable," he murmured. "But tell me, what makes your bakeries different from all the others?" "That's easy," Grace said. "Try this." She offered him our signature cookie, the same recipe I'd used at that college bake sale years ago. He took a bite, and his eyes widened. "This tastes like home," Josephine finished. Mommy Ray says every recipe needs three things: the right ingredients, the right timing, and the right people to share it with, Grace completed. The critic turned to me. Ms. Wilkins, you've created something extraordinary here, not just the food, the whole concept of healing through baking. Actually, I looked at my family, all of them. We created it together. After he left, we gathered in the kitchen for our evening tradition. 2 mixing bowls, 2 sets of ingredients, 2 families becoming one. Ready? I asked the girls. They nodded eagerly, taking their positions on either side of the prep table. Today's lesson, I announced, is about making something sweet out of something bitter. Like when you turned your anger into forgiveness? Josephine asked innocently. Jayla wiped her eyes. Marquis squeezed her hand. Exactly, I said. Sometimes the best recipes come from mistakes. Like when Dad and Mom messed up but then helped catch the bad guys? Grace added. And now we're all together. Josephine hugged her sister. Stephen cleared his throat. Should I get the special box? The girls gasped. Is it time? I nodded. He brought out an ornate wooden box, a gift from my mother. Inside were blank recipe cards. Today, I said, we're going to write our own family recipe, not for cookies or cakes, but for happiness, the girls squealed. We gathered around the table, each adding our ingredients to the recipe. 1 cup of forgiveness, Marquis wrote. 2 tablespoons of second chances, Jayla added. A pinch of fairy lights, the girls insisted. Fold in trust slowly, Stephen contributed. And bake with love, I finished. The bell chimed again. This time it was my mother, right on schedule for her evening visit. Something smells wonderful, she said, then saw our gathered family. Oh, you're writing in the recipe box. Want to add something, Grandma? Grace offered her a card. Just one thing. She wrote carefully. Serve with open hearts daily. The girls decorated the card with drawings of our 2 bakeries, connected by their rainbow bridge. We placed it in the front of the box, the first recipe in our new collection. Now, I said, who's ready to test this recipe? Me, everyone chorused. As we worked together, mixing batter and sharing stories, I realized we'd created something even better than revenge or redemption. We'd created a future where our daughters would never know the taste of betrayal, only the sweetness of forgiveness and the warmth of family, all kinds of family. Mom, Grace tugged my sleeve. Can we make this recipe every day? Forever and ever? Josephine added. I looked at Marquis and Jayla, at Stephen and my mother, at our daughters with their matching smiles and hopeful eyes. Yes, I said, pulling them all close. This is one recipe we'll never stop making. Because sometimes the best endings aren't endings at all. They're just new recipes waiting to be baked.